Chapter 872. Gu Mengmeng did not continue discussing this topic. From the day she accepted Leah, she knew that she was destined to be in a state of debt when it came to matters of the heart. Elvis and Leah treated her well, so she could only be grateful and try her best to love them even more. Leaning into Elvis's arms, she rubbed against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Gu Mengmeng felt at ease, as if she had found someone to rely on. Elvis stroked her hair lovingly, letting her nestle in his arms like a docile and lazy cat. He did not wish for his compromises to become a burden in Gu Mengmeng's heart. In the beast world, any half-orc female would have more than 10 males in her family. A complete female's family would have 30 to 50 members, and the first beauties of each tribe would have more than 100 partners. But Gu Mengmeng only had him and Leah. Even so, she always felt that she owed them, and this made his heart ache. What he gave was not enough, but she already felt that she was too greedy and always took care of their emotions carefully. How good would it be if she could be more willful? That way, she would be much happier. As the food in the house had all been processed, coupled with Lee's superb culinary skills, the meal was prepared very quickly. When Gu Mengmeng smelled the aroma of the meat and woke up, Leah was already standing downstairs, using stone bowls to serve rice and meat to everyone. Gu Mengmeng ate while looking at her 3 sons, her heart filled with warmth. If only Qi Xian was here too. Just as she was thinking, a strange sound came from the corner. Elvis and Leah turned around sharply. Gu Mengmeng immediately shielded her 3 sons behind her, then stared at the sound with her guard up. 2 stone slabs were pushed open and a person walked out from the corner. Without seeing his face clearly, Gu Mengmeng could already tell who it was from his scent. Cole. Cole did not have time to care about Elvis and Lee's guard up. He walked straight to Gu Mengmeng and said with a serious expression, "Ah, Gu, follow me." Something happened to little Xian. Gu Mengmeng felt as if all the blood in her body froze in an instant and her mind exploded. Without thinking about anything else, she walked towards Cole. Elvis held her waist and hugged her. "Xiao Meng, calm down." Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Elvis in a daze. Her entire body was trembling and she could not utter a complete sentence. Calm down. How could he calm down? Qi Xian was her son. He was the one who had lost the most money and wanted to make it up to her. It was a piece of flesh that had fallen off her body. "Ah, Gu, you know that I won't use little Xian to lie." Cole grabbed Gu Mengmeng's wrist and said, "Time is tight, I don't have time to explain." She then raised her head to look at Elvis and Leah. "Follow me if you're worried. Don't waste my time." Elvis pushed Cole's hand away and carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He turned back to look at Leah and said, "Stay at home and take care of the children. I will accompany Xiao Meng." Leah nodded. Although he was worried about Gu Mengmeng and Cole being alone together, if this was Cole's ploy to lure them away, Mengmeng would go crazy if anything happened to the 3 little ones. Chapter 873. Gu Mengmeng did not have a good sense of direction to begin with. After turning left and right for a few rounds underground, Gu Mengmeng was even more confused about north, south, east and west. Only when a ray of light appeared in front of her did she know that she had arrived. Coming out from a secret door that was similar to the entrance, Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before realizing that she was in Sauter's meeting room. She had memorized the 36 stratagems on the wall and a white tiger skin was laid on a stone chair. Qishuan's small body was curled up on the animal skin, looking like he was in extreme pain. He gritted his teeth and trembled incessantly, whimpering sounds coming from his throat. Even though she did not understand animal language, she could tell from her maternal instincts that the child was crying out in pain. Gu Mengmeng's tears streamed down her face. She could not care less about anything else as she rushed over and hugged Qi Xian in her arms to comfort him. "Don't be afraid, little Xian. Mummy is here." Elvis stepped forward and pulled at Qishuan's eyelids and ears. "It's all right, don't worry. It's just evolution. Evolve. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis with reddened eyes, as if she was a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Elvis nodded. It's just a normal evolution. He's almost 1 year old, it's time for him to evolve. But Hedda and the rest weren't like this when they evolved. Gu Meng Meng sobbed. This was the reality. No matter how strong a woman was, she would still be weak when it came to the problem of her children. That was the softness and sensitivity that they couldn't touch. Elvis remained silent. He could not tell Gu Meng Meng that it was not that Hedda and his brothers were not in pain when they were evolving, but because they were too worried about her, they forcefully released all the pain in an instant. The process was too fast for her to notice. And when it came to evolution, from beast form to human form, almost every inch of bone had to be broken, reassembled, broken again, and reassembled again. If that kind of pain erupted in a short period of time, ordinary beast men wouldn't be able to bear it at all. At best, they would fail to evolve. At worst, they would be crippled or even killed on the spot. So even though he had never mentioned it, Elvis was actually quite proud of the fact that all three of them had successfully evolved into half-orcs. But he could not tell Gu Meng Meng about this. It was enough for her to worry about Qi Xian. If the problem of the three little ones' evolution was mentioned, she would definitely blame herself even more. Instead of blaming herself, it was better to blame him. Elvis's expression was indifferent as he said, because the old injuries on his body have not fully healed, so it will be harder for him to evolve. Just get through it. It'll be fine. Gu Meng Meng glared coldly at Cole. If not for his scheme, Qi Xian would not have been injured by Elvis. This debt would naturally be placed on his head. Cole did not think that Elvis was trying to push the blame onto him. After all, he was best at manipulating people's hearts. From what he saw, Elvis's words were just trying to shift the blame onto someone else. But it didn't matter. Just like what he said, if he couldn't become someone that Gu Meng Meng especially liked and especially loved, then she would hate him even more. In any case, it wasn't just one or two things that she hated about him. One more or one less thing made no difference. Hence, Cole did not refute and only said, evolution is the critical period for Qi Xian. He does not have enough battle experience and has too little experience. I'm afraid that he doesn't have enough power to support his evolution. Even though he has the support of the kiss of the ocean, his body is still too weak due to the poison. So, Gu, you have to help him. Out of topic, today's update has ended. Regarding the issue of breaking updates in March, Su wants to apologize to everyone here. The editor requested that I have 250,000 chapters in stock. Yes, she changed her words. She clearly said 200,000 previously, but I only have 140,000 chapters in stock now, so I won't have a chance to be recommended in March. The editor's strict order is that I have to save 250,000 chapters in April, so I may not appear in the fan groups and message boards very often. But baby, even if I don't appear, you all must believe that I love all of you. Chapter 874. How can I help? Gu Meng Meng looked at Cole with reddened eyes. A drop of blood. Cole replied. You have the blood of the Beast King in you. Just a drop of blood is enough to help little Xian overcome this crisis. But Gu Meng Meng would not hesitate even if she had to bleed herself dry in exchange for Qishuan's safety, much less a drop of blood. The key was that her body was poisonous, especially her blood. Although she had been wearing the kiss of the ocean for many days and could now mate with her partner, that was only possible when Elvis and Leah were powerful enough. In other words, it was not that Gu Meng Meng was not poisonous, but that her poison had been diluted by the kiss of the ocean. In addition, Elvis and Leah had antibodies in their bodies, so they could rely on their strength to not be poisoned to death by her. That was all. But blood was different. Just a drop of blood was enough for Gu Meng Meng to turn a 100-meter radius into barren land. giving such a drop of blood to Qi? Was she helping him? Was she sure she did not want to kill him? Cole understood Gu Mingming's worries. He pointed at the kiss of the ocean on Qi neck. If it's just a drop of blood, the kiss of the ocean can purify it. Gu Mengmeng did not trust Cole from the bottom of her heart. She turned to look at Elvis without saying a word. Elvis nodded as a reply. Gu Mengmeng finally made up her mind after seeing Elvis's reaction. She bit her finger and dripped a drop of blood between Qi chattering teeth. Within a breath, Qi suddenly calmed down. But before Gu Mengmeng could heave a sigh of relief, Qi suddenly descended into a crazed state. His entire body kept convulsing. Gu Mengmeng was so worried that she did not know what to do. She could only call out his name over and over again. Tears streamed down her cheeks, causing Elvis's heart to ache. After a long while, Qi state gradually calmed down. Then, he slowly but clearly evolved before Gu Mingming's eyes. His tiny claws turned into long, fair fingers. His furry body gradually turned into a slender human form. His facial features were no longer that of a wolf's. With his head lowered, Gu Mengmeng could not see his face clearly. Elvis threw down a piece of beast skin to cover Qi body. He did not like Gu Mengmeng to see other males naked, even if it was his son. This is considered to be over. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis. Elvis scooped Gu Mengmeng into his arms and nodded, replying, "Yeah. The Beast King's bloodline is indeed different. It actually allowed little Xian to skip the half-beast stage and evolve into a rank 1 beast man." "Ah Gu, thank you." Cole knelt beside Qi and said as he caressed his little head. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with resentment. "Give me your dirty hands, don't touch my son." Cole was taken aback, but he still retracted his hand. He stood up and bowed to Gu Mengmeng. "Since Xian is fine now and Gu doesn't really want to see me, then, the two of you, please leave." Gu Mengmeng snorted coldly. "You seem to have forgotten that this is Sauter, my territory. I can go wherever I want. What right do you have to ask me to leave?" Chapter 875. "Since you know I won't feel comfortable staying in the same space with you, you should scram, shouldn't you?" Gu Mengmeng didn't hold back against Cole at all. Cole looked deeply at Qi, who was sprawled on the ground. "But if little Xian doesn't see me when he wakes up, he will run around the world again. The snow outside is so heavy. As a first-level orc, I'm afraid he won't be able to handle it. It's very dangerous." Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists. Qi glance at her before he rushed into the snow was like a sharp knife stabbing into Gu Mingming's heart. She couldn't deny Cole's words. If Cole wasn't around, Qi would definitely look for him when he wakes up. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole. She just nestled in Elvis's arms and looked quietly at Qi, who was sprawled on the ground without moving. Her eyes were filled with worry. After some time, Qi seemed to have woken up. He stretched his neck and propped himself up on his elbows. Qi. Gu Mingming's heart was finally at ease. Qi was first taken aback when he heard Gu Mingming's voice. He then turned around and looked at Gu Mengmeng in surprise. He didn't expect her to be here at all. After a long pause, he opened his mouth and called out, "Mother." Gu Mengmeng immediately jumped out of Elvis's arms and pounced over to hug Qi. She rubbed his forehead intimately. "Good baby, it's good that you are fine. You scared Mother to death." Qi hesitated for a moment but still reached out to gently stroke Gu Mingming's back. Just like how she used to coax the 4 brothers to sleep when they were young. Although his voice was mild, there was a hint of coaxing in it. "I'm sorry for making you worry." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and wiped her tears. "It's all right." As long as you are fine, mother will be fine. Qi Xian didn't say anything else. He just tied a knot in the beast skin and wore it as a simple beast skin dress. He then took 2 steps back to distance himself from Gu Mengmeng. Mother, I am fine now. You guys, hurry back. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. She looked up at Qi Xian and asked in anticipation, aren't you coming back with me? Qi Xian could not bear to see Gu Mengmeng's tear-filled eyes. He tilted his head and said, I am already of age and must be independent. But you are my son, Gu Mengmeng said. Qi Xian did not compromise. His voice was calm and gentle as he said, I will live independently and will still be your son. Gu Mengmeng stood up and took 2 steps forward. But the closer she got, the further Qi Xian retreated. It was obvious he was rejecting her. Qi Xian, are you blaming your mother for not protecting you? Gu Mengmeng felt wronged, but there was nothing she could do. She didn't know if all parents in the world were at a loss in front of their children. She only knew, she didn't want to lose this son. Qi Xian pursed his lips and shook his head. Mother, I am a wolf. Gu Mengmeng was at a loss. She looked up at Qi Xian, not understanding what he meant. Qi Xian looked back into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and said slowly, wolves are not a tribe that needs protection. Gu Mengmeng compromised. She nodded and said, all right, since you don't blame your mother, you can go back with her. If you want to be independent, you have to at least survive this winter. Chapter 876. Qi Xian. Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something, but Qi Xian interrupted her. There was a faint smile on Qi Xuan's face. It was clearly so gentle, but it was filled with alienation and sadness. His eyes were slightly curved and the corners of his lips curled up, displaying just the right amount of elegance. Mother has Elvis, Leah and my other 3 brothers by her side. Even without me, you will not be lonely. But he, apart from me, he has nothing else. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth. She had never expected that the first man to tell her, he needs me more than you, would be her son. If the person who needs me more was a female, she would accept it. But why did it have to be Cole? Qi Xian, you clearly know, Qi Xian nodded. I know that he is a bad person in your eyes. You don't like him and have never thought of trying to accept or understand him. But that is between the 2 of you and has nothing to do with me. Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything. She just frowned at Qi Xian. The uneasiness in her heart grew stronger and stronger. He's an important person to me. I can't just leave him alone. So, mother, please go back. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and slowly released her tightly clenched fists. She didn't want to push her son further away. The only thing she could do was to stand there without moving. Trying her best to smile, Gu Mengmeng looked at Qi Xian. My son is so handsome. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng felt her entire chest tremble. If not for Elvis supporting her from behind, she felt that she might not even be able to stand. But, what could she do? A grown son cannot be controlled by his mother. Your father and I will go back first. I will always keep the door to the secret tunnel open. Whenever you miss me, you can come back to see me, all right? Every word was a deep plea. Gu Mengmeng had never been so humble in front of anyone. Even when she and her mother were abandoned by their father, she had never begged like this. Even when she was chased out of the house by her mother, she had never begged like this. Her family was her most vulnerable spot. Facing Qi Xian, she could only be so humble. Qi Xian frowned. He took 2 steps forward and held on to Gu Mengmeng's shoulders. After hesitating for a moment, he still pulled her into his arms. Mummy, don't be like this. No matter where I am, I will always be your son. Yeah. Gu Mengmeng responded with a nasal sound, but her crying intensified. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng out of Qixuan's arms and placed her on his chest. He gently wiped her tear-stained face clean before looking at Qixuan. "Take care of yourself." Qixuan nodded. With that, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng back to where they came from. After Gu Mengmeng and Elvis left, Cole's face gradually darkened. He walked towards Qixuan step by step, raised his hand and grabbed him by the neck. "I think I've said it before. I'm the only one who's going to piss her off." His fingers were like metal pincers around Qixuan's neck. Raising him up, Qixuan's feet left the ground slightly. His face was flushed red from the lack of oxygen, but his body did not show any signs of resisting. He allowed death to approach him, but his eyes only stared unwaveringly at Cole, without a single ripple of emotion. "Little Xian, don't forget yourself and challenge my bottom line just because I treat you well. Be obedient and don't make me angry, understand?" Chapter 877. After returning to the stone castle, Gu Mingming's mood was very low. Elvis told Leah everything about Cole and Qixuan. Actually, children needed to be independent after they grew up. If Gu Mengmeng had not stopped them, the three young ones would have long gone out to fend for themselves. From the day they evolved, they no longer had any relationship with their original family. But because of Gu Mingming's persistence towards her family, Leah and Elvis made an exception and used the excuse that the three young ones had yet to fully evolve to keep them by their side. Seeing Gu Mingming's dejected look, Lee's heart ached. Sighing, Leah wagged his tail and sat beside Gu Mengmeng. He gently held her shoulders and placed her head on his chest. Children have grown up and have their own lives. You can't keep them by your side forever, can you? Leah kissed the top of Gu Mingming's head and said gently, "Moreover, don't you still have me and Elvis? The two of us will never leave you." Children had grown up and had to leave eventually. Gu Mengmeng understood this logic, but it did not mean that she did not feel sad. But fortunately, Qixuan would come over from the secret tunnel every few days to eat and chat with Gu Mengmeng. Gradually, Gu Mingming's mood improved. However, the fact that Qixuan, who had evolved the latest, was the first to become a first-level orc successfully stimulated the other three young ones, especially Kanwu. Then, in order to improve their own abilities, the three young ones started training in the will training mode at home. At first, the three of them fought each other, but later on, they found Leah to train with. When Leah wanted to cook for Gu Mengmeng, the three young ones started to target Elvis. Elvis was very unhappy that the three young ones he trained lost to Qixuan, who was trained by Cole. So when he trained with the three young ones, he was very ruthless, but the three young ones became more courageous as they fought. They were not at all scared off by Elvis's ruthlessness, but instead entered a state of excitement. Time slowly passed as the father and son warmly sparred with each other. Until a crack appeared on the snow sealing the cave entrance and a gentle breeze blew in. Gu Mengmeng knew that a new year had begun. According to tradition, as the tribe leader and witch doctor, Elvis and Leah should host the first hunt after the new year. Gu Mengmeng was rather looking forward to the first hunt of this rainy season. After tidying himself and the three young ones, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms. With a wave of his hand, the thin layer of snow blocking the entrance was smashed to the ground. Gu Mengmeng took in a deep breath of fresh air, then sighed in satisfaction. The weather was still a little chilly and Elvis was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would catch a cold, so he used a large piece of beast skin to wrap her tightly. She did not resist and allowed Elvis to wrap her up. Chapter 878. Gu Mengmeng was not a person who placed great importance on power, but she was not a fool either. Oakley's actions today were obviously overstepping his authority. Gu Mengmeng frowned and did not go up the stage. Meanwhile, everyone on and off the stage were already kneeling down, waiting for Gu Mingming's command. Leah whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "The hunt is an important matter, it cannot be delayed. As for the rest, we can talk about it later." Gu Mengmeng hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. Elvis lifted her up onto the stage. Then, Gu Mengmeng turned around to face the crowd and said, "Warriors, congratulations on passing the test of the harsh winter and becoming an even more outstanding existence. Now, it's time for you to display your talents and abilities to the beast deity. The first hunt after winter shall begin now." Hundreds responded to her call. Just as Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence, deafening roars resounded from below the stage, one after another. Elvis shook the shiny black fur on his body. His huge and burly body was like a king under the scorching sun, emitting an undeniable sense of oppression, causing everyone to subconsciously sharpen. Under his majesty, no one dared to take even half a step forward in front of him. With Elvis in the lead, a group of tribesmen dashed out. Leah never had to participate in this kind of hunt. Elvis alone was enough to control the entire scene. Gu Mingming's gaze landed on Oakley, who also did not participate in the hunt. She did not say a word and just watched quietly. Oakley did not panic, he just bowed to Gu Mengmeng, then said, "Does the great messenger have something to ask? Why don't we move to the meeting hall?" Gu Mengmeng did not reply, she just turned around and walked out. Winter had just ended, the snow had not even melted and the ground was very muddy. Leah carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms, saying dotingly, "The ground is cold, it's still more comfortable in my arms, right?" Gu Mengmeng smiled coquettishly and nodded, not saying a word. She knew that Leah was afraid that she would be in a bad mood because of Oakley, so he was purposely teasing her. The meeting hall was not far behind the deity altar. After about 5 minutes, Gu Mengmeng was already sitting on the stone chair covered with white tiger skin. Leah started a fire, boiling water at the side for Gu Mengmeng to drink. Oakley, on the other hand, was standing right below Gu Mengmeng, looking back at her with his head held high, not avoiding her gaze at all. This winter, Sauter has a total of 3 litters of cubs. Another snow fox female is pregnant and should be a female. Due to the method of food storage taught by the Great Messenger, no males died during the winter because they were treated as food. Only 7 died because their bodies were too weak to withstand the low temperature. The females of the Snow Fox clan were more delicate than the other clans. That was why I told the females to stay at home to avoid getting sick. This was also the reason why the Lord Messenger did not see any females today. However, all the males had come out, and the scene was still very spectacular. I wonder if Sir Envoy is satisfied with my arrangements. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Yeah, you have governed Sauter very well. Oakley lowered his head and maintained his faint smile. Thank you for your compliment, Great Messenger. But, why didn't I see Barit and Oritin just now? He was afraid that they would rather throw away the food than let that person have a bite. Gu as of Li as, of him, of. Of, Gu Gu of. Of Meng Meng of. Gu Meng Meng was sensitive and sensitive. She naturally noticed that Qishuan's expression was not quite right the moment Kanwu said he wanted to send meat to Burke. To tell the truth, if it was for Cole, she would rather throw the food away than let him have a bite. But for her son. Chapter 882. Can I also do that? Qi Xian was clearly surprised, so surprised that he appeared rather agitated. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and rubbed Qishuan's head. Of course you can. You are my son, what is there not to do in this family? Actually, Qi Xian was already a fully grown adult now. Gu Mingming's intimate actions made him feel rather uncomfortable. But at the same time, he also felt a little greedy and satisfied. Amidst the conflict, he survived in the cracks, enjoying the suffocating and conflicted pleasure. Thank you, Mummy. Qi Xian said in a small voice. Then, he lifted his bowl and bowed before leaving. After the 4 children left, Gu Mengmeng sighed. The smile on her face gradually faded, leaving behind a trace of loneliness. Elvis used his index finger to gently rub the area between Gu Mingming's brows. His pair of eyes that were supposed to be sharp were now filled with a gentle glow, as if he could not wait to present the softest thing in the world to this little girl in front of him. He said in the most soothing voice, "Children have grown up and will eventually have to go out and explore the world. So, try to divert your attention away from them and focus it on Leah and me. How about that?" Gu Mengmeng felt as if her heart had been scratched by a kitten. She looked at Elvis, who was seriously fighting over her with his 4 sons, and could not help but smile. Her smile was filled with a tinge of helplessness and sweetness. From the moment their sons were born, this fellow had treated the 4 of them as his #1 love rivals. Now that their sons were all grown up, why did he feel as if he had finally overcome all his hardships? Xiao Meng. Elvis's voice was a little hoarse, like hot sand grinding against iron. It had a bewitching quality to it. When we went hunting today, I observed that Heda and the rest should be evolving soon. Gu Mingming's body stiffened. Will it hurt like Qixuan? Elvis shook his head. No, their bones have already evolved. Their bones have evolved, so they won't be in so much pain anymore. Gu Mengmeng finally relaxed and heaved a sigh of relief. Elvis carelessly twirled Gu Mingming's hair. I wanted to say that once they complete their evolution, they will have to move out and live independently. You. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip. Her son was only a little over a year old. In the modern world, he was still at the age where he would be hugged in his arms and nibbled on a pacifier. But she had to face the situation of her son becoming independent and moving out of the house. Everything in the beast world was really fast-paced. She was only pregnant for a few weeks, and the child could only be raised for a year. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't disappointed. But Gu Mengmeng knew that as a qualified mother, she had to learn to let go at the appropriate time and accept the fact that her child was an individual. She could not force her own desires onto her child. So, Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, I know, I will be mentally prepared. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face and said, Don't worry, even if they become independent, you won't lose them. Just like Qixuan, he will come back to accompany you every few days. Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly. I'm just afraid that when the child grows up, he will be like the husky in the neighborhood. If I let go, he will disappear. Elvis had not heard the term husky for a long time. Thinking about how she used to tease him with this term, those sweet memories immediately occupied the corner of his lips. The gentleness in his gaze spread into ripples. Elvis said happily, If they dare not go home to see you, I'll break their legs. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. Susu was trying hard to save her chapters. Babies, why aren't you saying that you love me? Chapter 883. That night, Sauter hosted a bonfire party. After all, it was the start of the new year and Gu Mengmeng, the messenger of the beast deity, had to attend. The biggest bonfire and the supreme stone chair belonged to Gu Mengmeng alone. Bonfire parties were usually organized by families, meaning that there would be as many bonfires as there were females. Those without a family could go to the side of the females they were pursuing to make their presence known. If they did well, they would be part of a family from that night onwards. However, under such circumstances, Oakley could only maintain his role as the host, arranging and handling the affairs. A few females tried to express their goodwill to him but were all brushed off by him. Kanwo obtained Gu Mingming's approval and brought Burke to their bonfire to play together. The 3 young ones were still immersed in the day's hunt and their excitement had not subsided. They pestered Burke to the point that he wanted to talk to Gu Mengmeng a few times but could not find the time. Gu Mengmeng was happy and relaxed. She knew that the 3 young ones were doing it on purpose. Because once Burke really started a conversation with her, he would never have the chance to sit in front of her, no matter if she ignored him or not. The two males in her family would never allow a male with ulterior motives to make his presence known in front of her. Elvis continued to act as a leather sofa with constant temperature, protecting Gu Mengmeng tightly. Leah continued to prepare the food while Gu Mengmeng listened to her three sons' heroic achievements with great interest. Her gaze occasionally drifted to the surroundings, but she could not find Qi Xian. He had accompanied her for a meal in the afternoon, so he must have stayed to accompany Cole at night. Sigh, he was clearly her own son, but he treated Cole as family. Could it be that she had jinxed Qi Xian? Could it be that Stockholm Syndrome had really befallen Qi Xian? Sigh, at this moment, Gu Mengmeng really wished that she was Wang Xiaoxin. If she had studied psychology, would she not be so helpless? Gu Mengmeng. A soft voice rang from behind Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng turned around in response and met Sandy's sparkling eyes. Yeah, every time she saw Sandy after winter, Gu Mengmeng would feel as if she had gone to Korea for liposuction and plastic surgery. She had seen her once last year, but she could not help but be shocked when she saw her again this year. Seriously. Whiteness covers all ugliness, fatness destroys everything. All fat people were potential stalks. When they slimmed down, they would look so beautiful that they would be afraid of themselves. Standing up from Elvis's arms, Gu Mengmeng took the initiative to pull Sandy's little hand over to sit beside the bonfire. Bode and Colin looked serious and cautious as they guarded Sandy's side as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They looked a little scary. Gu Mengmeng turned to look at them. Why? Are you afraid that I'll eat Sandy? Bode nodded subconsciously. When he came back to his senses, he immediately shook his head. He wanted to explain, but when he saw Sandy rolling her eyes, he immediately shut up and lowered his head, not daring to say a word. Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered with them. She just took Lee's roasted meat and passed it to Sandy. Here, you can eat first. Sandy smiled sweetly. She took the barbecued meat but didn't eat it immediately. Her face was bright red under the light of the fire. She looked especially shy. Gu Mengmeng, I have something to tell you. What is it? Chapter 884. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for 3 seconds before breaking into a grin. Really? You're pregnant? Sandy blushed and nodded. Yeah, I'm pregnant. It's yours, aw. Gu Mengmeng almost fell over. She shook her head. No, this is not scientific. Sandy glared at Gu Mengmeng. It's your godson. Ah, right. Gu Mengmeng remembered that at the start of last year, when he brought Hedda and his brothers out, he told Sandy that if Sandy gave birth to a daughter, she would choose one of her sons as her partner. If she gave birth to a son, he would acknowledge Gu Mengmeng as his godmother and become sworn brothers with Hedda and his brothers. Now that Sandy was pregnant, it would naturally be her godson. But, how do you know it must be a son? What if it's my daughter-in-law? Sandy's pregnancy was a piece of good news to Gu Mengmeng. In a time filled with troubles, it was like a stream of fresh air. On one hand, Gu Mengmeng had a good relationship with Sandy. On the other hand, she really needed a piece of good news to calm her emotions. Hence, she paid extra attention to Sandy's tummy. Sandy chuckled. You're still the same. You know some magical things like the back of your hand, but you're still so clueless when it comes to common sense. Gu Mengmeng was not annoyed by Sandy's teasing. She nodded. You're a pregnant woman. You're the boss. Whatever you say is right. Sandy's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. She did not know why. She had been in a bad mood ever since she got pregnant. But whenever she was with Gu Mengmeng, she would feel especially good. If it's a female, the pregnancy period is about 10 months. But look at me, I can already see a slight bump in my tummy after just 20 days. If Sandy had not mentioned it, Gu Meng Meng would have thought that she was just a little bloated from eating too much. But now that she explained it, yeah, that tummy was indeed bulging. Gu Meng Meng reached out her hand to touch Sandy's tummy. So, this baby is Bode's. Sandy's gaze was very gentle. After getting pregnant, she was filled with motherly radiance. If it's a bear, even a male would need about 91 to 95 days. It's impossible for it to bulge so quickly. So this baby should be a junior leopard. Gu Meng Meng gave Bode an approving look and said, "Not bad, Bode, congratulations." Bode had a silly smile on his face as he scratched the back of his head. His face was flushed, and his gaze was fixed on Sandy from beginning to end with a doting and loving gaze. Gu Meng Meng clasped her hands together and prayed. She closed her eyes and said, "In the name of the messenger, I pray to the mighty beast deity. Please bless this little life with peace and blessings. Let him grow up strong, happy and healthy." Sandy's eyes reddened as she looked at Gu Meng Meng and said with a nasal voice, "Thank you, Gu Meng Meng." Gu Meng Meng opened her eyes and smiled. "What's there to thank me for? He's my godson after all." Sandy nodded her head heavily and said, "Gu Meng Meng, I still have one more thing to ask of you. There's no need for requests between us. Tell me if there's anything." Gu Meng Meng smiled. Sandy sniffed and said, "I want you to help me choose a name for my son. Is that okay?" Chapter 885. Sandy shook her head, her gaze filled with eagerness and desire. "You are the messenger of the beast deity, the names you give them are different." Gu Meng Meng chuckled, instantly understanding what Sandy meant. All parents in the world were like this, always wanting to give the best to their children. Gu Meng Meng nodded. "All right, I will help you give them names after you give birth." Sandy smiled and said, "I know you treat me the best." Whenever two females met, they would always have endless topics to talk about. They rambled on for a long time, leaving no room for the four males to interrupt. Gu Meng Meng had been in a bad mood for a while because of Qi Xian and Oakley. Elvis and Leah were naturally happy to see someone who could talk to her and make her laugh. Hence, they did not forcefully intervene out of jealousy, allowing the two of them to laugh as they ate. They chatted softly and laughed loudly. As for Bode and Colin, Sandy had already put on an act of exploding on the spot for the past few days. They could not do anything to her. She finally found someone who could make her laugh. As long as the two Buddhas in Gu Mengmeng's family did not fly into a rage, they could not wait for Sandy and Gu Mengmeng to spend more time together, so that Sandy's mood would improve. Where is your Cole? Why don't I see him?" Everyone was taken aback by Sandy's words. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes in confusion. She tried her best not to show any abnormalities. She asked as she ate, "My Cole?" "Yeah." Sandy nodded. "You haven't forgiven him. Although he has not found the things you want, let him go home on Qishuan's account. Otherwise, it will not be good for the two of them to keep floating around outside." Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows. "He told you that?" Sandy nodded. "Yes, he and Leah mated with you at the same time. Although he is not as likable as Leah, he is still a 5th-level orc. You two also have Qi Xian as your son. If you have not found the things, you can slowly search for them. You don't have to be so angry that you won't let them go home. Cole and Leah mated with me." Gu Mengmeng was getting more and more confused. She had mated with Leah in the Snake King Valley, but after returning to St. Nazaire, Gu Mengmeng did not block the news, so many people in the tribe knew what had happened to her in the Snake King Valley. Naturally, Sandy was one of those people. And after that, when they were digging the well, Gu Mengmeng had also specially told them what had happened in the Snake King Valley at the request of all her female friends. Sandy was the friend who had been by her side the longest. She didn't believe that Sandy didn't know what was going on between her and Cole. But Sandy obviously did not look like she was lying. Her attitude was so similar to when she was pleading for Elvis and Leah in the cave previously. Therefore, Sandy firmly believed that Cole was one of her partners and that Qi Xian was their son. F***ck. Qi Xian was a wolf and Cole was a fox. They were of different breeds. How could they be biological father and son? You don't even need to do a DNA test, you can tell with your naked eyes, okay? Sandy, we should go back. If you continue to pester Gu Meng Meng, Leah will throw a tantrum again. As both spoke, he carried Sandy up forcefully. He gave Colin a look, before carrying the stubborn Sandy and leaving first. Chapter 886. Gu Meng Meng didn't reply and just looked at Colin quietly. She knew that Colin would definitely tell her everything without holding anything back, because he knew that she valued Sandy as much as he did and would not leave her alone. Not long after you guys set off to search for the kiss of the ocean, Cole came to St. Nazaire. He asked Qi Xian to trick Heda and his brothers out, then used them to threaten Sandy to leave with him. Colin clenched his fists tightly, feeling that everything was his fault. If he had protected the three little ones well enough and did not give Cole a chance to take advantage of them, perhaps none of this would have happened. But Gu Meng Meng knew that with Cole's methods, it would not be difficult for him to crush Colin. Even if he managed to stop him this time, there would be a next time. Moreover, if there was a next time, his methods would not be as gentle as tricking. After all, Cole did not only have Qi Xian by his side, but also those third-level and fourth-level stray beasts that had yet to show themselves. Moreover, Qi Xian was Heda's biological brother. Who could stop brothers from meeting? Gu Meng Meng patted Colin's shoulder to comfort him. She did not say a word and just listened to Colin sigh quietly. When we chased after them, we saw Cole and Sandy walking back, chatting and laughing. Heda and the rest were playing by the side and the atmosphere was quite good. At that time, Bode and I felt very strange. Sandy had always been on the same side as you and would never like anyone you hated. When you left, you looked like you were going to fight to the death with someone, but when you came back, you looked like you regretted not meeting earlier. When Sandy saw Bode and I, she immediately asked us to follow her to Sauder. She wanted to wait for you here. We pulled Sandy away from Cole, but she said that he was Gu Meng Meng's partner after all and that she had to make things up between the two of you. I was stupid and could not wrap my head around it, so I directly said that Cole was not your partner, then. Sandy flew into a rage and said that even if I still cared about you in my heart, I had already mated with her. She told me not to do anything that would ruin your relationship with Cole. I was so wronged. Gu Meng Meng frowned deeply. She knew everything about Colin liking her. Back then, Ali had used this matter to provoke Sandy, but Sandy had retorted. If Sandy would believe that there was something going on between her and Colin. Gu Meng Meng did not believe him. Then, Cole pulled me and smiled mischievously. He said that if I don't want to be abandoned by Sandy and become a stray beast, I should shut up and not spout nonsense in front of Sandy. But I'm not talking nonsense. He's not your partner in the first place. I didn't believe it, so I went to talk to Sandy twice, but, for the entire winter, Sandy didn't even let me touch her. Chapter 887. All the people important to her had formed an important connection with Cole. If she killed Cole rashly, the first to suffer would be the people she cared about. Unless she was so heartless that she didn't care about anyone, otherwise, she could not move Cole. If Qi Xian alone was enough to make her hesitate, then now, she was already at a standstill. Gu Meng Meng, think of a way. Sandy really can't go on like this. Her consciousness was getting more and more chaotic by the day. The last time, she suddenly recalled that Cole was a fox and Qi Xian was a wolf. How could they be biological father and son? Then she felt a splitting headache. She hugged her head and rolled on the ground. After that, whenever she thought of any illogical details and tried to discover that you and Cole had nothing to do with each other, she would have a headache. It's still all right during the winter. At most, we won't mention you and Cole in front of her. But the closer it is to the end of winter, the more she thinks of you and Cole. When we found out that she was pregnant, we didn't dare to agitate her. Whenever she thought of something illogical, we would have to think of ways to justify ourselves and say that you and Cole were a couple. I'm sorry, I started rumors about you behind your back. After saying that, Colin lowered his head and frowned deeply. Colin had always been a simple and honest rough man. He tried not to open his mouth when he could. For him to say so much to Gu Mengmeng today, it was obvious that he was really worried sick about Sandy. Gu Mengmeng also sighed and said with some guilt, I should be the one apologizing. I'm afraid that the reason why Cole would plot against Sandy is also because of me. I will think of a way to settle this matter, don't worry. Colin raised his head and wanted to say something, but in the end, he gave up and only said, then, thank you. Then he left. Originally, hearing that Sandy was pregnant was a happy news. Cole was really trying his best to make things difficult for her. Elvis hugged her waist and kissed her brow lightly. Don't worry, it's fine. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis and asked, if I was pregnant today and Cole had used some unknown method to control me, how would I react? Can you still calmly say, don't worry, it's fine? Elvis was stunned. Just thinking about that possibility made his heart clench. He shook his head and said, I can't do it. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and leaned back into Elvis's arms, saying, yeah, I can't do it either. Sandy was the first friend I'd made after coming here. She was such a coward. She didn't even resist when she was bullied by Nina, but because Nina scolded me, she got into a fight with Nina. No matter what, she always put my feelings first and treated me better than her own partner. As long as I make a request, she seems to have never refused. She is my precious sister. I can't ignore her. I can't do it. Elvis tightened his grip on her waist and rubbed his chin against the side of her face. His voice was firm and deep, calm as he said, I'm not asking you to ignore her, I'm just asking you not to worry. Worrying won't solve anything, right? Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and nodded. She did not say a word and just let Elvis hug her. It was the same at any time. His embrace always made her feel at ease. Chapter 888. The three young ones were overly excited today and fell asleep not long after they returned to the stone castle. Elvis and Leah accompanied Gu Mengmeng back to the room on the second floor and closed the door before speaking with ease. Leah, Sandy's condition, is very similar to the fox seductive fragrance. Although Leah had been roasting meat during the night campfire party, his attention was always on Gu Mengmeng, so he naturally heard the conversation between Colin and her. Fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly recalled how Cole used a medicinal worm to frame Leah and was tricked by him. That day, Cole appeared and seemed to have said something about replacing Lee's position. Leah later told Gu Mengmeng that a male's fox seductive fragrance could only increase interest, but a female's could confuse one's mind. Leah nodded and said, I smelled it when Sandy sat beside you just now. Although it was very faint, it was definitely the fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mengmeng frowned and asked, is there a cure? Leah nodded, but his expression was slightly hesitant as he said, there are two ways. The first is to find the person who bewitched Sandy and let the original owner undo it. The second is to find someone who is better at using the fox seductive fragrance. With a stronger fox seductive fragrance and a more skilled technique, the original illusions will be suppressed. Bewitching. Gu Mengmeng was confused. Leah nodded and said, a female's fox seductive fragrance will cause people to hallucinate differently. But if used alone, it is just a purer sex secretion than a male's. But if paired with someone who knows how to bewitch, it can confuse one's mind. Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked at Leah, asking, "Do you know bewitching?" Leah nodded and said, "Every tribe leader and witch doctor has to learn bewitching." Gu Mengmeng said, "Then use it on me once and let me experience it." Leah pursed his lips and said, "I won't use it on you, humph." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and thought to herself, what the hell was with this sudden tsundere? What are you humph for? Looking at Gu Mengmeng's confused face, Elvis chuckled and played with her fingers. He's afraid that once he uses the bewitching spell on you, he will not be able to control his greed and want more and more. First, they'll fight for favor, then, they might want to replace me, and finally, they'll want to kill me. I won't do anything to upset Meng Meng. Leah turned his head away, his face blushing. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Then isn't it settled? I'll only do it once. I just want to know what a bewitching spell is. Leah turned his head and refused to look at Gu Mengmeng, rejecting her coldly. No. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Then there's no other way. I can only look for coal. No. Leah exploded and glared daggers at Gu Mengmeng. Let him cast a bewitching spell on you and you will think that he is your partner just like Sandy. Chapter 889. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to remind Leah that both of them were from the same tribe and were born from the same mother, so the taste was really not that different. But Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah would definitely explode if she said that. Moreover, she was not willing to compare Leah with Cole, so she just criticized silently and did not say it out loud. Elvis patted Lee's shoulder and said, "It's all right, you just need to show Xiao Meng the process of casting the spell. Without the female's fox seductive fragrance, it won't have any effect." But Leah hesitated. Elvis chuckled and said, "Why? After rebuking the head of the household, you want to rebuke the first partner now? Are you trying to ascend to heaven?" Leah suddenly laughed and said helplessly, "You really pamper Gu Mengmeng, you dare to joke around with your position as the first partner. Aren't you afraid that I will cast a bewitching spell and make Gu Mengmeng give up the position of the first partner to me?" Elvis was unperturbed and raised his brows calmly and said, "You can try." Leah twitched his lips in boredom and said, "Tisk, forget it. The first partner has to maintain his bearing, this won't do, that won't do, I will just be a pampered partner." Elvis nodded and said, "Yeah, if you want to continue being pampered, don't go against the head of the household." Leah rolled his eyes at Elvis and said, I know. TSK, you are so daring." Elvis chuckled. Daring? Also not. He never dared to risk Gu Mengmeng. But, if it was Leah, he was not worried. Leah was the same as him, he would not do anything to make Gu Mengmeng sad, right? Leah swayed his tail and sat in front of Gu Mengmeng. He closed his long and narrow eyes slowly before opening them again, meeting Gu Mengmeng's gaze with unmistakable accuracy. A red light flashed across his eyes and Gu Mengmeng felt her line of sight being held tightly by Leah and she could not move it away at all. That pair of eyes was like a huge whirlpool and the more she struggled, the deeper she sank until she could not see the top. Gu Mengmeng, you are very Russian now, you really want to eat stewed meat, you are very Russian now, you really want to eat stewed meat. Her vision was blurry and Gu Mengmeng could not see anything. She could only hear the familiar voice repeating in her ears. Gu Mengmeng's stomach twitched and when she regained her senses, she felt a little hungry. "Leah, I'm hungry, I want to eat stewed meat." Gu Mengmeng blurted out subconsciously and saw Leah and Elvis's serious expression. Stunned for a moment, Gu Mengmeng suddenly smiled and said, "I understand." Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and asked softly. Gu Mengmeng said, "Without the help of the fox seductive fragrance, although I will be bewitched, I will wake up in an instant, bewitching spell." Hee. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Leah, her gaze carrying the hazy coolness of the moonlight. She looked like a little fox hiding under the night sky, so cunning that it was exceptionally captivating. If I'm not wrong, this bewitching spell was imparted to you by the previous messenger of the beast deity, right? If it's her, she should be able to bewitch people even without the fox seductive fragrance. Chapter 890. Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, "Of course not. How is this bewitching spell? It's just hypnosis." Hypnosis? Leah asked. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Yeah, it's a type of psychological suggestion. It's Wang Xiaoxin's specialty." Gu Mengmeng leaned back and rested her head on Elvis's chest, her fingers tapping on Elvis's arm in a rhythmic pattern. First, using the fox seductive fragrance to disturb a person's mind, then using psychological suggestions when the person's mind is weak to achieve the effect of hypnosis. But normally, hypnosis would have a necessary key. Once this key is triggered, the hypnosis can be removed. Sometimes it's a certain keyword, sometimes it's a certain thing or a certain time. Simply put, everything in the world can be that key. So, unless the person using the key to remove the hypnosis, the probability of trying to guess is too low, almost negligible. What are the chances of getting this key from Cole? Probably lower than Gu Mengmeng trying to guess herself. His original intention was to hold the people around Gu Mengmeng in his hands as a life-saving bargaining chip, so he naturally would not return them to her easily. Then, there was only the second option left. A stronger person using the spell. Then did she have to dig Wang Xiaoxin out from the ground? The more Gu Mengmeng thought about it, the more frustrated she got. For the umpteenth time, why did she choose to major in human resource management in university? She should have majored in psychology. Rubbing her hair, Gu Mengmeng slapped her thigh and said, "I want to sleep." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances and said, "Go find the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Yeah." Elvis sighed and kissed Gu Mengmeng's little mouth, saying, "Don't sleep for too long." Gu Mengmeng nodded as a form of agreement. Elvis gently placed Gu Mengmeng on the bed that was covered with a thick layer of beast skin, then turned to sleep on the outside to block the side of the bed for her. He used the beast skin to gently cover her tiny body and said while tucking in the corner of the blanket, "Sleep, I will guard you." Gu Mengmeng slowly closed her eyes and allowed the drowsiness to engulf her. Her consciousness rose and returned to the clouds of white fog. The beast deity was sitting leisurely on a two-seater wooden chair on a small patch of grass about 2 square meters, smiling at Gu Mengmeng. He stretched out his hand and said, "Daughter, you're back." Gu Mengmeng walked over quickly, tilting her head to look at the beast deity with an indignant expression. "I was tortured so badly in the beast world, but you are living so happily here." The beast deity smacked his lips. "Didn't you come back for pocket money? This is not obedient. Is it all right?" Gu Mengmeng choked. She clenched her fists and said, "You win." After she finished speaking, she took a deep breath and said with a kind smile, "Papa, I'm back to watch TV with you." The beast deity raised his eyebrows and laughed. "You seem like a scheming female antagonist who fights for inheritance in television dramas." A thick mark appeared on Gu Mengmeng's forehead and she faked a smile. "I am your only child, no one will fight with me for your inheritance." The beast deity nodded in agreement and said, "Yeah, what you said makes sense." Gu Mengmeng raised her palm and said, "I intend to be a hard-working daughter this time. I don't want anything else this time, just give me a book." Chapter 891. The smile on Gu Mengmeng's face almost broke. She shook her head and sat beside the beast deity. Wrapping her arms around the beast deity's arm, she said, "Papa, I want a copy of Hypnosis, from beginner to master." The beast deity nodded. With a fatherly doting tone, he said, "Sure, watch television with me first. I will give it to you after." "Sure." Gu Mengmeng agreed happily. Then, she crossed her arms and looked at the beast deity. With a wave of his hand, an empty space appeared in front of them. Familiar scenes flashed before her eyes. It was the same place she had seen the previous time. The luxurious shopping mall was filled with dazzling items. All the products exuded a luxurious and dispirited aura. Gu Mengmeng did not even need to look at the labels to be blinded by the dazzling light. Snake pressed Gu Mengmeng onto the sofa. Then, he gestured casually. A young lady at the counter pushed 2 rows of clothes in front of him. Snake casually took a set of clothes and entered the changing room to change. After changing, he walked to Gu Mengmeng and asked, "Does it look good?" Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Why was this hero not acting according to the rules? Didn't he say he was going to buy clothes for her? Why did he activate the miracle Nuanyuan's dressing mode? But, it was really pleasing to the eyes. The 4-piece khaki suit on Snake looked like it was tailor-made for a model. He looked like a business elite, instantly killing off all the fake CEOs in television dramas. Maybe it was because the nobility he exuded was different from the aura he exuded just by relying on clothes and props. Snake had only asked 3 words. He did not even try to act cool. He just stood there quietly. It was as if he was the cover of a magazine. Gu Mengmeng had the urge to take a photo and lick the screen. Snake raised his left hand and looked at the watch on his wrist. He chuckled and said, "Yeah, you stared at me for 2 minutes. Looks like this set of clothes is not bad." Gu Mengmeng was brought back to reality by Elvis's words. She suddenly lowered her head and said, Who looked at you?" Elvis was in a good mood. He took 2 steps forward and hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin. His gaze was teasing. "Wipe your saliva before denying it. Maybe it will be more convincing." Gu Mengmeng instinctively touched her mouth and realized that she had been tricked when she realized that the smile in Snake's eyes had deepened. She snorted angrily and turned her head away from Snake. Snake did not mind, he just changed into different styles of clothes for Gu Mengmeng to see, before deciding which one she wanted based on how stunned she was. But she had to admit that Snake was a natural clothes rack. None of the clothes he tried on were bad looking, as if they were specially designed for him. And no matter what style it was, when it came to him, he was handsome. His handsomeness could explode the sky. So basically, as long as they tried it on, they would buy it. Until, Snake wore a pure white suit. Because of Gu Mengmeng's memories, he knew that she was a fan of those Korean dramas where people wore suits and suits. From how she stared blankly at him changing his clothes today, that was indeed the case. As a result, most of the clothes that Snake tried on were suits, and most of them successfully attracted her attention. There were even a few sets that this girl was infatuated with. But when this pure white suit appeared, Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a few seconds. Then, she suddenly burst into laughter. She laughed so hard that she could not even stand straight. Aside from the topic, today's update ended. Chapter 892. Snake's hair stood on end from Gu Mengmeng's laughter. He turned back to look at himself in the mirror helplessly, but did not see anything strange. He frowned, feeling somewhat disappointed. Gu Mengmeng laughed for a long time without any intention of stopping, so Snake could only walk to her and pinch her little face. He pulled her into his shadow and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Snake's pressure was too strong, and Gu Mengmeng was instantly terrified. She did not dare to laugh anymore. Holding back her laughter, she lowered her head and shook her head slightly, saying, No, Senior is very handsome, you look handsome no matter what you wear." Pfft. Snake gritted his teeth and said, "Have you seen the work manual? What will happen, if you lie to me?" The Evil Treaty of 794, Gu Mengmeng looked up at Snake, thinking that she could not afford to pay the compensation fee of $450,000, so she chose to be honest. "Actually, I'm not laughing at anything, I just feel that, wearing a full white suit makes me look like a famous and iconic character. Snake quickly tried to recall which celebrity's iconic white suit was worn, but no matter how he thought about it, he could not think of anything, so he could only raise his brows and ask, "Who?" "KFC." Gu Meng Meng said as she laughed. She could not hold it in any longer, clutching her stomach and rolling on the sofa in laughter. Gu Meng Meng. Snake enunciated her name word by word. Gu Meng Meng also knew that it was not nice to laugh at her boss like that, but she really could not control herself. For the sake of her own job, Gu Meng Meng laughed while trying to salvage the situation. "Senior, listen to me, even if it's KFC, it must be the KFC that was at its peak when it was young. Haha, yes, the most handsome KFC is definitely you. Ha ha ha. If it was anyone else who dared to be so presumptuous in front of Snake, they would probably be crushed to the point where not even their bones would be left." But for some reason, facing Gu Meng Meng who was laughing like an idiot, Snake could not find any trace of anger in his heart. Instead, the corners of his lips curled up along with her laughter, and his heart was filled with joy. Releasing Gu Meng Meng's chin, Snake returned to the fitting room to change out of the white suit and wore his initial set of clothes. When he came out, he said to the salesgirl, "The clothes I picked just now, each one is matched with 10 sets of women's clothing. They are her size." With that, he pulled Gu Meng Meng away without waiting for the counter lady's reply. Gu Meng Meng was dumbfounded. Ha! Snake had tried on at least a dozen sets of clothes just now. If each set was paired with 10 sets of female clothing, that would be more than 100 sets of new clothes. Damn, he's so rich that he's inhumane. The clothes sold here were so expensive. Gu Meng Meng's liver would tremble for a few days just to buy one set, let alone 100 sets. Even if she was sold, she wouldn't be worth the price of the clothes. "I don't want new clothes. You can buy them for yourself. Don't buy them for me." "I don't want them." Snake paused and turned to look at Gu Meng Meng. "I bought all my clothes that you like. I spent so much effort to please you, shouldn't you repay me a little?" "Aw." Gu Meng Meng felt that when she was talking to Snake, her intelligence was always not online. She could not understand what he was saying at all. He roared inwardly, "Speak human language, hey." Chapter 893. Snake's tone was light, like a feather caressing the tip of her heart. His warm breath sprayed into Gu Meng Meng's nose, making it extremely ambiguous. "In the future, you are only allowed to wear the clothes I buy and use the things I buy. From head to toe, you are only allowed to stick my label." Gu Meng Meng blinked and asked awkwardly, "Are you trying to keep me as your mistress?" Snake's smile deepened as he savored the word keep. He thought for a while and said, "That's not impossible." Gu Meng Meng lifted her leg and kicked Snake's calf. She lowered her body and crawled out from under Snake's armpit. After running for 7 to 8 steps, she turned around to look at Snake and said, "Let me tell you, I buy my strength and not my body. If you want to play with the unspoken rules of the workplace, you can find someone else. I am not going to be crazy with you." Snake was not annoyed and instead smiled. He turned around and leaned against the car door, crossing his arms and looking at Gu Meng Meng. TSK, even his Tuming's angry look was so pleasing to the eye. She was a good girl with principles. "Tu Meng, come here." Snake waved his hand and then put his palm up, waiting for Gu Meng Meng to put her hand in. Gu Meng Meng took another step back and looked like she would rather die than submit to Snake. Snake was not in a hurry and just smiled. "You are now my personal assistant and need to accompany me to all kinds of occasions. In other words, you are my face. If you dress shabbily, you will be embarrassing me. So, these clothes can only be considered as work clothes and were given to you by the company." Gu Meng Meng thought about it. She felt that there was nothing wrong with Snake's words. Blushing, she felt that she might have overreacted just now. Clearing her throat, she said, that label, whatever. Snake still maintained his inviting posture with his palm up and continued to answer, my personal assistant, from head to toe, every detail must be perfected. Your own taste. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake's indescribable expression and then looked down at her own clothes. She blushed. A Taobao t-shirt with 29 free shipping, a pair of jeans with 69 free shipping, a pair of shoes with the same style that he bought last year on Double 11, and a large school bag that he bought at the night market. This outfit really doesn't match the identity of a big CEO. Snake was not in the mood to mock Gu Mengmeng. The pain she had suffered over the past decade would only make his heart ache. Seeing that she was not coming over, Snake strode forward and grabbed her little hand, bringing her into his arms. His large hand gently caressed the back of her neck and his lips pressed against her ear, whispering, the next time I call for you, you have to come over to my side, do you understand? Snake's embrace was so warm that Gu Mengmeng forgot to struggle free. For some strange reason, he responded with an "n," but he had no idea what his current situation was. The corners of Snake's lips curled up, his eyes filled with gentleness. His voice was so gentle that it numbed all of Gu Mengmeng's bones, but he did not realize how much affection and infatuation he had revealed. You can't go back on what you've promised me. I've waited long enough. One more second. I don't want to wait any longer. So, the next time I call for you, if you don't come to me, I will come to you. Gu Mengmeng's heart felt as if it was being tugged by someone. That violent trembling made her feel a little dazed. It was as if something was surging through his heart, but it was too intense, and he couldn't hold on to it. Chapter 894. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng refused to take Snake's car to school no matter what. Snake did not force her and only sent her to the bus stop. Then, he watched her board the bus and drove his sports car slowly behind the bus. The bus stopped at one stop after another, and he also stopped at one stop after another. Until Gu Mengmeng alighted from the bus and turned around to see a flamboyant person sitting in the flashy sports car, waving at her and smiling happily. Gu Mengmeng turned and walked away, pretending that she did not know that flamboyant person driving the sports car. The moment she entered school, Gu Mengmeng felt strange. Everyone seemed to be pointing fingers at her and gossiping about something. By right, other than a few girls in the same dormitory, not many of her classmates would be able to call out her name. How did she suddenly become the center of attention? Gu Mengmeng looked left and right, looking confused. She thought to herself, perhaps it was because Snake ran into the classroom and hugged her for the entire lesson yesterday. She did not take it to heart and just quickened her footsteps to the classroom. She sat in a corner and leaned on the table, burying her face in her arms. She could not sleep well last night because she had been thinking about all sorts of things. Now, she was so sleepy that she fell asleep unknowingly. She did not even know when Snake had sat beside her again. This lesson was Professor Zhang's. This professor was an old pedant and old-fashioned. He always talked about respecting teachers and principals and paid great attention to class discipline. In his class, all university students were scolded like kindergartners. They had to sit properly or else he would feel that they did not respect him. Then, the graduation grade would be, haha. Gu Mengmeng should have sat in the corner and buried her head in sleep. But this girl was so sleepy yesterday that not only was she sleeping, she was also snoring. Although her snoring was soft and looked especially cute to Snake, to Professor Zhang, it was an affront. A piece of chalk was thrown towards Gu Mengmeng and was caught by Snake in midair. You! Professor Zhang's eyes widened in anger. Snake stood up slowly and said, she studied very late last night and needs to catch up on her sleep now. She! This was the first time Professor Zhang had been contradicted, and he was furious. But Snake did not give him a chance to speak and continued, I will make up for the content of this lesson for her alone, it will not affect the professor's performance. Professor Zhang was so angry that the hand he pointed at Snake with was trembling. Snake chuckled and said, "I suggest the professor to continue with your class. Don't waste everyone's time and don't disturb her sleep." Professor Zhang slammed the blackboard eraser on the podium and said angrily, "I won't let her pass the final evaluation." Snake slowly sat down and chuckled. "I hope your term of office can last till the end of the semester." Gu Mengmeng raised her head in a daze and asked with sleepy eyes, "Huh? What happened?" Snake rubbed her little head and draped his jacket over her head. "It's all right, continue sleeping." Professor Zhang was infuriated and felt that he had no way out of this embarrassing situation. Hence, he flicked his sleeves and left, leaving the rest of the class to look at each other in dismay. They watched as Snake watched Gu Mengmeng sleep for an entire lesson. Chapter 895. I was afraid that someone would be beside you while you were sleeping, so I came over to guard my position. Snake smiled at Gu Mengmeng, his voice gentle and calm, with a tinge of sweetness. Goosebumps rose all over Gu Mengmeng's body. She shrugged her shoulders and said, Get up, I need to go to the toilet." Snake stood up and made way for Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng turned sideways and Snake followed behind her. Seeing how awkward she was because of him, the corners of his lips curled up and his eyes were filled with love. Gu Mengmeng entered the toilet and randomly found a cubicle to close the door. She had just squatted down when she heard the discussion outside the door. Did you hear? That kept woman. Do I even need to hear? Her photo has already been posted on the school forum. TSK. She usually doesn't show off much, but she's actually a powerful vixen. Isn't that so? Confessing to the basketball captain in the morning, getting intimate with the coolest school hunk in class, and still meeting her sugar daddy after school. TSK. She's pretty good. Isn't that so? The basketball captain's stamina is famous for not collapsing overnight. The coolest school hunk used to be in the swimming team. His body is also amazing. I wonder who her sugar daddy is, dating 3 men in a day. She's really like a wolf and a tiger. Gu Mengmeng was confused at first, but the more she heard, the more she felt like they were talking about her. But she knew about the confession to the basketball captain. She also knew about the relationship with the coolest school hunk. What the hell was a kept woman? Taking out her phone, Gu Mengmeng hurriedly logged into the school forum. Title: First-year student has a powerful background, luxury car, villa, and exhibition. There are photos to prove the truth. Gu Mengmeng clicked on it and felt like she was struck by lightning. There was a photo of her standing at the entrance of Snakel's villa. At that time, Snakel was at the entrance, but he couldn't be seen due to the angle. He could only see her standing in a daze at the open door of the villa, about to walk in. There was also a photo of her alighting at the entrance of the exhibition, as well as various branded paper bags neatly stacked on the ground, then tied together with a red silk cloth, with a label on it that said, "To Gu Mengmeng." The accompanying text was all sorts of incitement and speculation, with the general direction being that she was kept by a rich businessman. There were countless scandals, such as selling yourself in junior high school, having 5 abortions in 3 years of high school, and so on. Gu Mengmeng held onto her phone, so angry that her fingers were trembling. Her entire body was ice cold, but she could not say a single word. Her tears fell uncontrollably, but she could not cry out. For so many years, no matter how hard life had been, she had at least persisted in exchanging money through labor and being a good girl. You can be poor, but you can never be cheap. Self-respect and self-respect were the few things she had left. How could these ignorant people trample on her like this? The bell for class had already rung, and the people in the restroom had already left. Snake, who was waiting at the door, frowned. Not seeing Gu Mengmeng coming out, he walked in. "Tu Meng." Snake called softly. Gu Mengmeng did not say a word and just stood up hurriedly to pull up her pants. Tu Meng. Snake raised his voice. Gu Meng wiped away her tears, not wanting Snake to see her crying. Chapter 896. This tiny sound successfully attracted Snake's attention. Without another word, he lifted his leg and kicked the bathroom door open. Looking at Gu Meng, who was curled up in a corner crying her eyes out, Snake frowned in heartache. He hugged Gu Meng in his arms and caressed her back, ignoring her struggles. Don't cry, you're so ugly. Don't bother about me, sob. Let go of me, if someone sees this, I won't be able to explain myself. Let go. The more Gu Meng struggled, the tighter Snake hugged her. Until she could no longer exert any strength and lay obediently on his shoulders, twitching and shaking, Snake then said, "Tell me, why are you crying?" Gu Meng looked at Gu Meng. Gu Meng refused to speak and just kept crying. Snake didn't want to force her and just carried her to the underground car park. He stuffed her into the car and brought her back to the villa. By the time they reached the villa, Gu Meng's emotions had more or less calmed down. Her nasal voice was still very strong, but she no longer cried. "Why did you come back? We only had one lesson." Snake glanced sideways at her and said, "I am the boss, I will arrange whatever I say. You just have to obey and don't have to question." Without explaining further, Snake pushed Gu Meng into her room and said, "Shower and change your clothes. I don't like to see you in such a disheveled and pathetic state." With that, he slammed the door shut and returned to his own room. Just one lesson. So what? How could he let others see her crying? Her tears could only fall in front of him. Picking up his phone, Snake dialed a number and said, 3 minutes. Find out what happened to her today. With that, Snake hung up without waiting for the other party's reply. Sitting on the big office chair, Snake crossed his hands on the office table. His gaze was cold and sinister and he exuded a violent aura. It was as if the surrounding air was filled with black particles, making one feel suffocated and terrified. A minute and a half later, Snake's phone screen lit up. Other than the post on the school forum, there was also the list of people discussed in the female washroom and the content of the discussion. Of course, the attached page clearly listed who posted the post on the school forum and where the photo came from. Snake's finger lightly brushed past the name on the last page. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, as if the death god was announcing the arrival of darkness. Gu Meng changed into a clean set of clothes after washing up. Snake had thrown away her previous clothes, so if Gu Meng didn't want to run around naked, she could only wear the clothes Snake had bought for her yesterday. The good thing was that they were all arranged in sets, so there was no need to worry that Gu Meng would randomly dress Chanel into a killer. When she came out of the room, Snake was already standing at the door. Looking at the pink dress Gu Meng was wearing, his lips curled up slightly. Yeah, it matched his clothes perfectly. The simple ponytail was full of youthfulness and wildness. It was far less exquisite than some girls who would play tricks on their hairstyles, but it made people feel natural and comfortable. Snake was satisfied with Gu Meng's outfit. He held her hand and returned to the sports car, heading straight for school. Chapter 897. Snake parked the car and brought Gu Meng into the performing arts class. There were already 2 rows of bodyguards dressed in black standing guard at the entrance of the classroom. The principal and a group of administrators were already waiting at the entrance. Upon seeing Snake, the principal bowed respectfully and did not say a word. The group of administrators followed behind Snake in an orderly manner according to their positions and entered the large classroom in a single file. The performing arts class was a rather ostentatious one. The students in this class were all handsome and pretty, and all of them were children of a certain family background. They might not necessarily walk the path of an artist in the future, but were sent here to cultivate their aura. The lectern on the podium had already been removed and replaced by a large chair. Snake turned around and sat down. Gu Mengmeng did not understand and just stood quietly behind Snake with a dumbfounded expression. Snake's gaze swept across the faces of everyone in the classroom, then curled his lips coldly. His voice was so cold that there was not a single trace of emotion. Every word he said was like a sharp blade made of ice, wreaking havoc on everyone's hearts. My Tumang said that everyone has a fixed label on them. The one that stuck on me previously seemed to be the mute school hunk. No one dared to reply. It was so quiet that even the flow of air seemed to be noises, and breathing was unnecessary. I'm not very satisfied with this label, so I want to change it. Snake leaned against the back of the chair lazily. With a pull of his large hand, Gu Mengmeng fell into his arms. She wanted to struggle, but Snake did not give her the chance. He wrapped one arm around her waist and allowed her to struggle, but she could not leave his embrace at all. Snake leisurely admired Gu Mengmeng's every move until she completely gave up struggling and obediently nestled in his arms. He then continued in satisfaction, I feel that the label of holding a grudge and covering up for my shortcomings is not bad and suits me very well. In order to let everyone have a deep impression of this new label, I have decided that from today onwards, I will kill anyone who dares to touch my Tumang. There was a series of gasps and the temperature in the classroom dropped by a few degrees. The thread regarding Gu Mengmeng was a hot topic in the school forum. Although it was suddenly deleted 20 minutes ago, there were thousands of people discussing it. In this classroom, everyone felt insecure. Snake's gaze scanned through them one by one and finally landed on the face of the school belle, Missouri Bebe. Let's start with you. Mo Bebe shuddered and bit her lower lip as she glared at Snake. She wanted to tell herself not to be afraid. Although Snake was handsome, he was just a university student and there was nothing to be afraid of. Wasn't it just standing up for his girlfriend? There were many people who were willing to stand up for her. It's okay, it's okay. But, the headmaster and the others were standing on the podium, but he was sitting. The rows of black-clothed men at the door also told Mo Bebe that she was too naive. And the source of all this fear came from the person sitting on the podium. He was like the uncrowned king of hell, unrestrained, killing at will, crushing everything, and looking down on everything. Snakel glanced sideways and with a glance, the man in black at the door walked to the front of the podium with an iPad and connected it to the classroom's projection equipment using Bluetooth. Then, the big screen showed erotic pictures one after another. The main character of the pictures was none other than the school belle, Missouri Bebe. Chapter 898. Everyone could hear the deeper meaning behind Snake's emphasis on the word miss. When he looked at Mo Bebe again, his gaze was filled with obscenity and disdain. Impossible, this photo is a composite. It must be. Mo Bebe was making her final struggle. Her live stream was always burned after viewing it, so there was no way there would be any evidence. This was at most a screenshot of those otakus, as long as she denied it. But Snake smiled and said, I don't want my Tumang to see such filthy things, it hurts her eyes. So I will send the original video up later. As Snake said that, the man in black specially opened a folder. There was a short MP4 video in it, lasting 49 minutes and 26 seconds. The cover was a close-up of Mo Bebe's underwear. Meng Meng's face paled and she bit her lower lip, unable to say a word. But Snake did not let her off and continued, I heard that you can get Miss Mo's contact details by sending 10 yachts. 50 yachts to invite Miss Mo out for a one-to-one live broadcast. Yeah, I contacted a few Miss Mo's very close friends and they gave me some especially exciting, treasured videos. I feel that they are really too good, so I have already sent them to Miss Mo's parents and the leader of your parents' unit as a gift. Mo Bebe looked at Snake, her gaze starting to slacken. She trembled all over but could not say a single word. Oh, right. Miss Mo has taken such good care of my two Meng, so in return, I have already invited a few, especially close friends of yours to the scene. They will cooperate with Miss Mo to showcase your acting talent to everyone. In order to realize Miss Mo's dream of becoming a star and let you shoot to fame, this performance will be broadcasted live on the livestream platform. Every student in the school will have a VIP account, and it has already been sent to everyone's phones in the form of text messages. With that, Snake carried Gu Meng Meng and stood up. He was as elegant as a prince in a European castle. He smiled and said, "Then, I shall not disturb everyone from enjoying the exciting show." Before he finished his sentence, Snake had already carried Gu Meng Meng out of the classroom. A group of school leaders followed Snake out and the girls in the classroom also jogged out. However, a few brave boys stayed in the classroom and had already started to lay their hands on the former goddess. After everyone had left the classroom, 5 wretched and greasy middle-aged men wearing masks walked in. Gu Meng Meng could not hear any of the cries for help and groans coming from the classroom due to the distance. She only thought that Snake was just scaring her. Snake carried Gu Meng Meng into the principal's office. The school leaders stood in a row in front of Snake. Snake stretched out his hand and took a name list from the hands of the man in black. He passed it to the principal and said, "The school's atmosphere should be rectified, what do you think?" Principal. The principal respectfully took the name list, lowered his head, and said, "You are right, I will definitely deal with the disciplinary issues seriously." Snake nodded and did not want to say anything more. He was not in a good mood because Gu Meng Meng did not want him to hug her. Holding her little hand, he stood up and walked out. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at the principal, saying, Professor Zhang will reach the retirement age next week. The school has already given up on the counter-employment plan. He will leave this Friday." The principal answered directly. Chapter 899. The scene froze at the back view of Snake leading Gu Meng Meng away. The white fog filled the air again, sealing the empty space. Gu Meng Meng stretched lazily and stood up with her palm facing upwards. "Daddy, pocket money." The beast deity chuckled, as if he was looking at his own willful daughter. He slapped Gu Meng Meng's palm. "I feel that Hypnosis, from Beginner to Expert is not a good book. Daddy, can you recommend a more practical one?" Gu Meng Meng raised her brow. She looked at the beast deity with a sneaky smile and replied, "Oh." The beast deity lifted his finger. There was a small white dot on his index finger. It was not tangible and looked as if his finger was glowing. It was not glaring. The glow was gentle and light, a little like pearls under the sun, with a hazy glow. The beast deity tapped Gu Meng Meng's brow lightly. Gu Meng Meng's eyes instantly lost focus and she fell into a state of nightmare. It was as if something was rapidly squeezing into her brain. It was so fast that Gu Meng Meng could not react in time. She only felt many things filling up her thoughts. It was as if she suddenly knew something she did not know in the past. It was about a minute, but to Gu Meng Meng, it was a long time that could be counted in microseconds. When the beast deity removed his finger from Gu Meng Meng's brow, Gu Meng Meng's eyes slowly regained their focus. Blinking, Gu Meng Meng looked at the beast deity in a daze. The beast deity chuckled. "How is it, my dear daughter's cheating cheat? Are you satisfied?" Gu Meng Meng supported her head with one hand and slowly extended a finger with the other. She waved it twice in front of the beast deity, then suddenly laughed. "Whose memories did you implant into my brain?" Gu Meng Meng's expression changed. The beast deity placed his index finger on his lips and gestured for her to keep quiet. More accurately, it is not anyone's memory. It is just a portion of someone's knowledge and her own research insights. Damn it, why did this portion of knowledge and research insight seem to be related to bewitching spells? Was there a need to ask? Wasn't the answer obvious? Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around the beast deity's neck and kissed him on the cheek. You are abusing your power for personal gain. But Dad, I really like you more and more. Sure enough, people with a biological father are different. The beast deity rubbed Gu Mingming's little head gently. I forcefully dragged you into the beast world and destroyed your original life. I made you suffer so much and suffer so much. Father will also feel guilty. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, actually, it's nothing much. Although there have been many troubling matters recently, at least I have family here. It was better than being all alone in the original world, forsaken and helpless. But I think it's better for you to hold on to this guilty heart. This is more beneficial to me. The beast deity smiled benevolently and nodded. All right. Gu Mengmeng released the beast deity's neck and was just about to leave when she paused. She turned to look at the beast deity and asked, oh, that's right, Father, can't we really send Wabi to Snake's side? The beast deity was taken aback, as if he did not expect Gu Mengmeng to mention this. Chapter 900. The beast deity just nodded and did not say a word. Gu Mengmeng closed her eyes and fell backwards with her back straight. A wave of dizziness accompanied by the weightlessness of free fall made Gu Mengmeng frown. She gathered her limbs together and sat up abruptly. She got up too suddenly and her head was a little dizzy. Her body tilted and she was leaning into a warm embrace. You're awake. Before she finished her sentence, a cup of water was already placed in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to drink a mouthful and then looked up to meet Elvis's deep and gentle eyes. Chuckling, Gu Mengmeng kissed Elvis's chin and said, "It's so good to see you the moment I open my eyes." Elvis felt a surge of warmth in his heart because of Gu Mengmeng's words, moistening the gentleness and pampering in his blue eyes. He kissed her brows and said, "I am always here. You will definitely be able to see me whenever you want to." Gu Mengmeng smiled and nodded in agreement. Then, she leaned into his arms and said, "How long did I sleep for this time?" 4 days. Elvis asked worriedly, "Are you hungry?" "A little." Gu Mengmeng nodded and answered. Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's limbs to help her wake up so that her body would not be able to react after sleeping for too long and it would be uncomfortable to get off the bed directly. Leah saw that you have the intention to wake up and has already gone to prepare food. Wake up a little and we will go downstairs. Gu Mengmeng nodded and asked again, "Did anything happen during the 4 days I was asleep?" Elvis shook his head lightly and said, "Nothing much, it's just that Leah was bored," and snatched the authority from Oakley's hands. Gu Mengmeng almost choked on her own saliva. He had already initiated a coup and he still called it nothing much. Elvis poked Gu Mengmeng's brows lovingly and said, "Why are you so nervous? With Lee's methods, are you still afraid that he killed Oakley and snatched the authority?" Gu Mengmeng felt that he was right. Leah rarely solved his problems by killing. He had many ways to make people automatically do things according to his wishes. But, Cole would allow Leah to suppress the authority so easily. Gu Mengmeng expressed her doubts. Elvis paused and smiled helplessly. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said, "He has already achieved his goal, hasn't he?" "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in confusion. Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's calf as he said, "If he wanted Sauter's political power, he could just launch an attack to seize it. Why would he need to control Oakley to achieve his goal? Isn't it too roundabout?" "You mean?" Gu Mengmeng still did not quite understand. Elvis used the beast skin to cover one of Gu Mengmeng's calves properly, before rubbing the other one. He said, "They are enemies, but they don't want to start a war. The best way is to display your abilities and bargaining chips to let the other party weigh the pros and cons, isn't that right?" "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "So Cole is telling me that no matter how much I dislike him, as long as I can't bear to part with Chi Xian, Sandy and Oakley, I can't do anything to him, right? Although Elvis was unwilling, he still nodded and said, he has the people you care about in his hands, so we can only be led by the nose by him. It's a little passive. So Leah took back control of Solder, to snatch Oakley back. Elvis lightly scratched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, Xiao Meng is so smart. Aside from the topic, yeah, Snake is very domineering, isn't he? Does everyone like him? Snake is no longer a snake now. Oh, he's a normal human now. Like it if you like it, give me the ticket. Chapter 901. Leah was going to handle Oakley's matters, so Gu Mengmeng did not want to bother too much about it. His situation was different from Sandy's. Sandy's consciousness was controlled by Cole through hypnosis, and it was not voluntary. But Oakley, he did not look like he was being controlled. Gu Mengmeng did not know what difficulties he had, but she had given Oakley a chance to ask her for help. As long as he was willing to be honest with her, she would help him, wouldn't she? But he still chose to stand opposite her. She had to admit that Oakley's decision made Gu Mingming's heart turn cold. As friends, Gu Mengmeng would not leave him in the lurch. However, the relationship between them could only be described as friends. The familiar aroma of food wafted from downstairs. Gu Mingming's entire body had been rubbed by Elvis, and her blood had already circulated through her entire body. Gu Mengmeng felt refreshed. Stretching herself, she allowed Elvis to carry her downstairs. Leo looked up and smiled at Gu Mengmeng, his eyes curved into crescents. His fluffy and white tail swayed behind him, showing that he was in an extremely good mood. Scooping a bowl of food, he held a small wooden spoon and fed Gu Mengmeng mouthful by mouthful. Gu Mengmeng was already used to this kind of behavior. Every time she went to see the beast deity, she would sleep for a few days, and the first meal after waking up would always be Leah feeding her personally. It was as if this was the only way he could ensure that she was full and feel at ease. This seemed like some kind of obsessive-compulsive disorder. But it was not a big deal, so Gu Mengmeng did not intend to correct him. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, Gu Mengmeng then asked, "Where are Hede and his brothers? Where did they run off to?" Leah replied, "They went hunting with Burke, saying that they wanted to prepare more food for Burke's old tribe. That way, Burke would not have to suffer too much when we leave. Aren't there 2 other females in the old tribe? Haven't they found a new partner after so long?" Gu Mengmeng asked casually. Leah chuckled and said, "The males of the Snow Fox tribe will not marry with females from other tribes. If their entire tribe returned to Saint Nazir with us, there might still be hope. But here, that tribe's old, weak, sick and handicapped can only be taken care of by Burke alone." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else and just nodded silently. It was good to let the 3 little ones help their master Burke. After all, Gu Mengmeng owed him for what happened previously. Even though Cole had plotted to implicate him, it was an undeniable fact that she had also made use of Burke. Perhaps keeping her away from Borg would help him the most. Otherwise, who knew if Cole's next target would be him? "Oh yes, Elvis told me that you have regained control of Solder," Gu Mengmeng said. Leah washed a fruit and passed it to Gu Mengmeng. Seeing how she took a bite with her cheeks puffed up like a cute little squirrel, he could not help but smile. Then, he nodded and said, "Yeah, after all, I am the 9th highness of the Snow Fox tribe. Those old foxes want to maintain the honor of their tribe, so they will not let me be under a lynx. So all I did was refuse their offer and they pushed me to the pinnacle of power. The human heart is the easiest thing to grasp." Gu Mengmeng asked, "What did they suggest to you?" Chapter 902. Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah with her eyes wide open. "You agreed." Leah chuckled seductively. He pinched Gu Mingming's little face. Didn't I say that I just didn't reject? Ha! Gu Mengmeng didn't understand. Didn't rejecting mean he agreed? Leo leaned forward and pressed his lips against Gu Mingming's left ear. Not taking the initiative, not rejecting, not taking responsibility. Gu Mengmeng instinctively blurted out. Scumbag. Leo shrugged his shoulders and chuckled. Wouldn't it be extremely foolish to treat those old foxes with a kind, and beautiful heart? Gu Mengmeng thought about it. Those old foxes in solder would only think about their own benefits. When had they ever treated Leo with any sincerity? When Cole set up a trap to harm Leo, they acted like everyone was kicking him when he was down. None of them stood up to speak up for Leo. After that, when Leo chased Cole away, they acted like the monkeys would scatter when the tree was down. They completely forgot how they had relied on Cole to do whatever he wanted all these years. Now, raising such conditions to Leo meant that he must have already made a deal with Cole. Sacrificing Oakley in exchange for a more advantageous situation. No one should laugh at anyone. No one should look down on anyone. After all, no one was that much nobler than anyone else. They could make use of Leo. Why couldn't Leo make use of them? Leo pecked Gu Mingming's little face. Leave these things to me. Don't worry about it. Gu Mengmeng nodded. I don't want to care about government affairs. It's too troublesome. What I want to ask is, which female in the tribe has the highest purity of fox seductive fragrance? Leo shifted his body backward to create some distance between him and Gu Mengmeng. He scrutinized Gu Mingming's little face. His smile gradually spread. So, the beast deity taught you the bewitching technique? Gu Mengmeng nodded in acknowledgement. Leo lowered his head and chuckled. He covered his lips and his gaze shifted. Gu Mengmeng was confused by Lee's gaze. What's wrong? Leo didn't say anything. He just shifted his gaze upwards and met Elvis's eyes. Gu Mengmeng followed Lee's gaze to Elvis. She realized that Elvis's face was so red that it was about to bleed. Hubby, are you not feeling well? Elvis coughed twice and turned his face away. Gu Mengmeng found it very strange and turned to ask Leo, don't keep me guessing, what happened? Leo rested his chin on one hand and looked at Elvis. Sigh, first partner Elvis, the head of our family is asking me a question. Can I answer it or not? Gu Mengmeng could clearly see the teasing look on Lee's face. Although she did not know what it was, to make Elvis blush, she was still very interested to know. The burning spirit of gossip lit up Gu Mingming's eyes. She secretly rubbed her palms together and said, Tell me quickly, I will back you up, what are you afraid of? Leo deliberately nodded his head slowly, his large tail swaying behind him. That look was very despicable. Stretching out his index finger, Leo lifted Gu Mingming's chin gently. His long and affectionate eyes stared at Gu Mingming's bright eyes as he said in a low voice, the purest fox seductive fragrance in this world belongs to you. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.